Between the words that are spoken and the words that are heard, may the Spirit of God be present. My guess is that if David had been born a few millennia later, he might have been a client of Olivia Pope, Kerry Washington's character in ABC's political thriller series, Scandal. Pope, as DC's top crisis manager, or fixer, has her work cut out for her. An episode might go something like this. A public figure lets their appetite get the better of them. And rather than face the problem in miniature, they layer cover-up upon cover-up. The tension mounts. The problem grows from mini to mega. It's going to be leaked to the press. The client's political future hangs in the balance, and it's a full-blown crisis with no shortage of drama. Now, it's got to be fixed, and so Olivia Pope and her team, known as gladiators in suits, run interference. They do the dirty work in Vogue-worthy attire. It's ethically gray, but the bullet can be dodged. For a price, the scandal can be averted. Take it from 7 seasons of scandal, from Bathsheba, from her many sister wives, or from King David himself, the underlying issues aren't put to bed. So God sends Nathan, a prophet appointed to hold Israel's king to a higher standard. And Nathan's tool is not a sealed letter for David to carry to his death, but a parable opened for David's interpretation, using obvious injustice to appeal to David's goodwill. Now, there are limits to this approach. Bathsheba does not get her Me Too moment, and like many powerful men, David is spared the worst and the most logical consequences of his actions. But Nathan does his prophetic duty. And at last, David confesses, I have sinned. Now, most of us aren't dealing with the rarefied problems of television or those of ancient Israelite heads of state. But the differences are more in degree than in kind. Like David, most of us are capable of letting a relatively small thing, say a text or a call from a sibling that goes unreturned, turn into 6 months of great distance, that kind of distance that could tip the delicate balance of a Thanksgiving table and spark a family feud. Like David, most of us have some expertise in digging ourselves in. I know I do. Or some unrealistic expectations of somebody else digging us out. That is precisely where today's gospel picks up. Jesus has hosted this impromptu picnic of epic proportion, and the hungry throngs follow him. They cross a body of water to find him, in the hopes that they are done with meal planning for good. Very truly, Jesus says, you were looking for me not because you saw signs, because you got your fill of the loaves. The crowd has quite literally missed the boat. Jesus is not DoorDash for our stomachs. Jesus is bread and wine. Jesus is soil and water for our lives, for the life of the world. And Jesus asks us to dig in, to feel a life of healing and wholeness. What must we do to perform the works of God? Work for what endures, Jesus says. Believe in the one whom God has sent. And live day to day, trusting in that through line of God's guidance and goodness. There's no shortage of crisis to capture our attention. There's the Delta variant, there's climate crisis, and frankly, there are those more personal and immediate things that tax many of you, and they tax me too. I get overwhelmed too. When temporary, even long-term temporary crisis seems to rule the day, it becomes especially important for us to hang on to that which is eternal, to really dig in to the foundations in God, and to let our responses arise in the day-to-day life from those depths. This is a call to practices, to a life anchored in daily time with God, because it's there that we build capacity for relationships with ourselves, for a relationship with God and with one another. This is how we get to yes, even if our yes comes with that honest statement of, let's try again, or no, I'm sorry, I can't. Or the grace-filled recognition of the help that God is already offering. Prayer, even in moments, prayer, even when it's rudimentary, is that counterpoint to digging ourselves into the hole. Prayer is what binds us up together and what helps us grow. The author of the letter to the Ephesians urges us toward that maturity. He writes, "We must no longer be children, tossed to and fro and blown about." The letter gives us those indicators of when we are truly grounded in God: patience, gentleness, bearing with one another in love, our willingness to appeal to others' sense of justice and goodwill. When our patience is wearing thin, or we are bearing the crisis with some sense of righteous indignation, we risk to keep the drama we can control on top of the crisis we cannot. Thinning patience is not a sign from God for catastrophic thinking, for sleepless nights. It's a signal of our need to turn to God yet again for forgiveness and renewal, for health and wholeness. As the psalmist prays, "Give me the joy of your saving help again, and sustain me with your bountiful spirit." God sustains us not only in word and sacrament, but in flesh and blood, in Christian community. Since the fall of 2018, the cathedral community has been nourished and enriched by the ministry of the Reverend Kristen Saylor, our Director of Formation. From preparing adults for baptism and confirmation and our sacramental life, to championing the work of social justice. From her tending of the 6 p.m. congregation to her beautiful presence at this altar. We are more built up in love for Kristen's share in our life. Kristen, on this, your last Sunday, I want to say thank you. Thank you for reliably digging in, for being a most excellent colleague and collaborator, for calling me by your words and example to deeper love and trust in God's abundant goodness. Week by week, God's people are sustained. We are sustained by a meal, by Christ himself, who says, "I am the bread of life." By Christ, who asks us to dig in, to participate as who we really are in the sight of God. Not our spin cycle, not our image fixed for public consumption, and not the worst things that we say about ourselves. We are broken, yes, but whole. We are sick, yeah, but we're healed. So come and let Christ take our thoughtless words spoken in haste and make of them the great thanksgiving for the Word made flesh. Come and let Christ take our thinning patience and our unfinished business and make them an offering in faith. Come and let Christ take our meager fare and make of them a feast. The crowd said to Jesus, "Sir, give us this bread always."